The Golden Cage and the Gilded Lie. Jacob Miller, at 50, had a fortune that could make monarchs envious. Real estate, businesses, investments, he'd conquered them all. Yet in the vast emptiness of his life, only echoes answered his call. His mansion, a fortress of wealth, was a prison of solitude. Friends had proven to be vultures drawn to his money, and romantic relationships withered under the glare of superficiality. He had resigned himself to solitude, his days a sterile dance of financial transactions, his nights a chilling silence. Then he met Emily Johnson. Emily, working at a small local cafe, was everything Jacob's world wasn't. She was overweight, struggling, yet radiating a warmth that defied her circumstances. She smiled, laughed, and treated everyone with a kindness that was alien to Jacob's high society circles. He watched her, fascinated, as she navigated a world that judged her harshly. Yet she held her head high, working hard, supporting herself with dignity. One day an idea struck Jacob, an audacious, selfish idea. He'd found out a secret about his wife through an accident. He'd always suspected something. He never loved his wife or had true feelings towards her. They'd committed, and that was it. He discovered it had been an affair with his best friend from the start, and from then on, he plotted his revenge on her and his friend. He did not want to leave her. He wanted her to suffer. He saw in Emily a tool, a pawn in a game he intended to win. He would marry her, not for love or admiration, but to shatter the carefully constructed facade of his wife, Victoria. He would use her resilience, her inherent goodness, to expose the emptiness and superficiality of his own world and shatter his friends. So with a chilling calculation masked as admiration, Jacob decided to act. The next morning he walked into the cafe, his eyes seeking out Emily. "Emily," he said, his voice surprisingly gentle, "could you spare me a moment?" Emily, surprised, agreed. She knew Jacob as a quiet, wealthy patron, always impeccably dressed, always alone. She couldn't imagine what he wanted. At the table, Jacob took a deep breath. "Emily, I know this may sound strange, but I've been watching you for months. I see how you struggle, how you face the world with such strength. I want to offer you something." Emily looked at him, a flicker of curiosity in her eyes. "I want you to marry me, Emily." Emily gasped, stunned. "Mr. Miller, I don't understand. Why me?" Jacob reached across the table, taking her hand. "Because you are real, Emily. You are honest. You are everything my world is not. I want you to be my wife." He didn't mention his loveless marriage, or that he was only using her, a poor innocent woman. He just made her an offer she could have refused, a chance at a life she could barely imagine. Emily, overwhelmed, asked for time to consider. Jacob agreed, but the urgency in his eyes betrayed his carefully constructed facade. He needed her, not for herself, but for what she represented, a weapon to wield against his enemies. In the days that followed, Emily wrestled with the proposal. Her mother, sick and burdened by debt, urged her to accept. "It could change everything, Emily, for both of us. You have to think about it." Emily knew her mother was right, but the thought of marrying a man she barely knew, a man so wealthy and powerful, terrified her. Was it love or just charity? Was she being used? Yet something was compelling about Jacob, a quiet strength, a hidden sadness that resonated with her own struggles. She felt a connection, a sense that he saw her, truly saw her, beneath the surface. She decided to meet him again. "Jacob," she said, her voice trembling slightly, "I've thought about your proposal. I accept, but I have conditions." Jacob's eyes lit up with anticipation. "I won't be a trophy wife, Jacob. I won't be molded into something I'm not. I'll continue to work, to live my life as I always have. And I need to know, are you being honest with me? Why me?" Jacob looked at her, his expression carefully controlled. "I am being honest, Emily. I want you for who you are. As for why, that's something we can discover together." He omitted the part where her goal was to humiliate Victoria. The wedding was a quiet affair, a stark contrast to the lavish parties Jacob usually attended. Only Emily's mother and a few of Jacob's staff were present. The vows felt hollow to Jacob, each promise a calculated lie. The honeymoon was brief. Jacob, eager to set his plan in motion, returned to the city, bringing Emily to his mansion, a gilded cage she now shared with a man whose heart was locked away behind walls of resentment. Life at the mansion was strange for Emily. The servants, polite but distant, treated her with a mixture of curiosity and disdain. Victoria, cold and elegant, barely acknowledged her presence. Jacob, seemingly preoccupied with business, retreated into his study, leaving Emily to navigate the treacherous social waters alone. One afternoon, days after the wedding, Emily stumbled upon a conversation between Victoria and one of her friends. "Can you believe it?" Victoria hissed, her voice dripping with venom. "He married her! That creature! It's utterly humiliating." "What are you going to do?" her friend asked. Victoria smiled, a chilling expression that sent a shiver down Emily's spine. "I'm going to destroy them, darling. Both of them." The fear then arose in Emily. He had married him to get revenge on her friends, and now they were planning to get revenge on her. It was this that Emily realized that Jacob had not wanted her. He only saw her as a weapon that could be used for his vengeance. This was the truth that the old man had been so careful to conceal. She was not special, just as replaceable as his first wife. She confronted Jacob that night, demanding the truth. Jacob, cornered, confessed everything: his loveless marriage, Victoria's betrayal, and his desire for revenge. He admitted to using Emily, manipulating her into a marriage that served his twisted agenda. Emily was devastated. The man she had thought she was falling for was nothing more than a cruel manipulator, his kindness a calculated lie. She was nothing more than a pawn in his game. Consumed by anger and betrayal, Emily decided to turn the tables. She allied herself with Victoria, exposing Jacob's secrets, his financial misdeeds, and his twisted plots. Together, they brought his empire crashing down, revealing his true nature to the world. Jacob, stripped of his wealth and power, was left alone, his grand plan reduced to ashes. He had sought revenge, but in the end, he had only destroyed himself. Emily, now free from Jacob's clutches, used her newfound knowledge to build a better life for herself and her mother. The money, although tainted by its origins, allowed them to escape poverty and build a future of their choosing. She learned that even kindness can be a mask for cruelty, and that true strength lies in honesty and self-respect. In the end, it was not love that defined her, but her resilience and determination. After all, it would make for a good revenge.